Hello and welcome back to my channel. This is Nekopon Gaming and I'm Miss Nekopon. Today we're going to be going over some of the basics in the brand new Grandmasters to Our Descendants training scenario. It's actually been about 2 weeks now, but I hope you will still find this video helpful. This scenario released as a part of the 2nd anniversary celebrations of the Uma Musume game, and it is the 5th training scenario in the game. Before we start, don't forget to follow me on Twitch where I play Uma Musume and many other games live, and also follow me on my second channel where all those VODs live. Now, Grandmasters is a collaboration training scenario with Star Horse 4, which is an arcade game in Japan featuring racing horses. In this scenario, you are graced with AI presences that represent the 3 goddesses. The red AI, Darly Arabian, represents the goddess of bravery. The yellow AI is Barali Turk, which represents the goddess of discipline. And finally, the blue AI is Godolphin Barb, which represents the goddess of love. In order to get the AI goddess's blessing, you're gonna have to collect 8 knowledge fragments on the knowledge board. So this HUD you see right here on the left side of training is called the knowledge board, and every piece inside are the fragments. You can start collecting knowledge fragments at turn 3 through training, racing, outing, and even resting. You may also get 2 times fragments randomly from outings, resting, running required races, and friendship trainings that are not wisdom. Wisdom trainings can also trigger 2 times fragments, but they're not guaranteed. The 2 fragments you'll get from 2 times are going to be identical fragments. So it's a red power one, you're going to get 2 red power fragments. This training scenario does not have any scenario links, so feel free to train whoever you like. Anyone you choose will not affect the fragments in any way, like the way Bourbon or Tachyon has affected performance points in Grand Live. Once you've collected 8 fragments, you will collect a goddess's wisdom. With a goddess wisdom in hand, you can use it for a special one-time boost or hold on to it to keep training with the fragments you have on hand already. Do keep in mind, while you're holding a wisdom, you cannot collect more fragments, so it's recommended to use the wisdom sooner than later. So if you see down here, it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This is the same fragments that you see on the knowledge board from the slide before. The only times you may want to hold on to your wisdom instead of spending it right away, maybe because for instance, yellow is a good wisdom to hold on to for summer where you get a lot of stats, or red wisdom to the end of the year for bonuses, which we will talk about why in just a moment. The other reason might be because your fragments are giving you a ton of bonuses that you might want for a few turns if you can spare the few turns. For example, maybe you have many slots that have wisdom fragments, so you'll see a lot of wisdom bonuses during training. However, in most cases, you will still want to use your wisdom as soon as possible. Now, let's talk about the goddess's actual effect on your training overall. They do so much for you. There's so many boosts. They do 1-turn boosts, permanent boosts, year-end boosts, and also end of training skills. So let's start with the 1-turn boosts. You can activate the 1-turn boosts when you have collected 8 fragments total. These are the wisdoms. You can activate your goddess's wisdom once you've filled your knowledge chart, so it's this one right here on the left, and you can do that by tapping on this green button here to use the wisdom. You can also access it through here or here, and when you see this like red line up here, it means that you can use your wisdom, and once you use it, it'll be activated, and you can see the wisdom being used right here after you've activated it, so you know that it's on. So if you end up using the red wisdom, you'll actually get 50 energy, which is half of the bar. You'll also get full motivation. So regardless of if you're in purple, blue, or yellow motivation, it'll pop all the way back up to pink. All of your training facilities will also have an effect that's higher than level 5. So you'll see with this like red border around it, it means that it is working and you have higher training facility effectiveness. And of course, the last one, which is the one that we will use most often, is the 35% stat gain from races. Next, we also have yellow. So yellow is going to give you support card triggers for friendship training, meaning like everyone's gonna just be in rainbow training regardless of bond level or card type. So you can see here in my example, I'm training speed right now, but the cards I have in here include power, but they're still doing friendship training, so that's really, really good. So as long as you have a bunch of people in here, maybe 3, maybe 4 or 5, they will all be in rainbow training, and it's a great time to use yellow. Finally, for blue, all the support cards on the same training facility will give a skill hint, so you can get more than one at a time, and some stats and skill points as well. So the little hint is going to be these pink icons. So if you have like maybe 3 people in a stack, they will all get the little exclamation mark once you hit the blue wisdom, and you'll get a skill hint from all of them. The second point is after training, support events can happen more often for friend and group cards. So group cards are going to be like Throne and Team Serious cards, where they show up with that 3 dialogue option pretty often. That can give you more stats, but the point here is that not only does it give you stats, but it also gives you a chance to activate Passion Zone more often, which means you will get friendship training more often, which means you can get 2 times fragments more often, which is the important part here. Now let's talk about how we use them. As you can see, timing your fragments for the right moment is important since they do all specific boosts. Holding a red wisdom for races at the end of the year will be kind of like using a gold hammer in Make a New Track. The yellow one's gonna be great for summer, and it will allow you to get the most out of your training, and also at end game when your training facilities are at higher levels. So you can see here as an example, I have 3 stacked up here, and this one's actually an int on speed, and I'm still getting a ton of bonuses and a ton of stats from doing this. And then finally for blue wisdoms are particularly useful in the beginning of the year when you want to gain more friendship bond, or if you're making a parent and want to collect lots and lots of skill hints. So you might be asking now, how in the world am I going to make sure that I get the right goddess wisdom? Like, what if I want a red or a yellow or blue? How am I gonna make sure I get the right one? Well, actually, you can control which wisdom you get, and it's pretty easy to understand. Let's start by looking at the chart here, which is empty right now. This is your knowledge board. All you have to do is make sure the fragments in 1 and 5 slots are the same color for the wisdom that you want. So for instance, if 1 and 5 are both red, then my wisdom will definitely be red regardless what 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, or 8 are. And this is how it lines up in the other view. So this is the chart view. Right here on the left side, this is your knowledge board view. The slots are going zigzag from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, but on the knowledge board it actually goes left to right. So it just goes from 1 to 8 all the way across, but they're exactly identical. Now to explain why slots 1 and 5 works, it works because the fragments are always merged left to right except for the final merge. So let me show you what I mean by that. It is that when they are merged 2 by 2, the left one will always be the one that goes up to the top. So because this one is blue and yellow, blue on the left, and it will become blue. And this one as well because it's yellow on the left, so it will always be yellow. And then once it becomes a crystal in the middle, it has the same idea here. So because the left is blue, it'll be blue on the way up, and because the left is blue on the right side here as well, it will be blue on the way up, and finally your goddess wisdom will be blue. If it happens that your slot 1 and 5 are different colors and you want to pick a particular one, just make sure the rest of your fragments are mostly the color that you want more. So in this case, you can see that 1 is red and 5 is yellow, but if you really want to make sure you get yellow, you just have to make sure that there are more yellows on the board than there are reds. So you can see here, because I have 4 yellows and 3 reds, my final outcome became yellow. Honestly, the hardest part about getting these colors correct is looking ahead of your schedule and knowing when you might hit like a 2 times fragment requirement, like in a race or something, that you can really mess up your board. Now in total, you should be activating about 10 to 12 wisdoms per training. Now let's talk about the permanent boosts. Again, each of the goddesses will give you a different boost. Red will give you an energy discount along with training bonus. Yellow will give you a support event effect up, chance of support event up, and training bonus again. Yellow also has training bonus. And then blue will have hint rate up, chance of after event training up, and again, training bonus. So they all have training bonus. And again, these are permanent boosts. So these will last throughout your entire training session. Notice they all have training bonuses, so the more wisdom levels you have, the more training bonus level you'll have. And as you can see, as they level up, they get boosts and they get stronger, and their max level is 5. Each time you activate a particular color's wisdom, they gain a level starting at level 0. These boosts stack every time you activate a wisdom, so it's important to try and get as many as you can. All the colors red, yellow, and blue have training bonuses that stack stack up and are additive. Because we're expecting to get 10 to 12 wisdoms every year, it would be wise to try and get more permanent boosts with multiple goddesses rather than just focusing on one goddess. You don't get more boosts after they hit max level 5, so it's a good idea to spread out your love to more than one goddess. So if you look at this menu down here, there's this button that's under the knowledge board. Once you click on it, you can see all the training bonuses that you have. This section right here is gonna be your permanent boosts. On the top one, you can see this one is training bonus, so they're additive right now between all 3 of the goddesses depending on their level. You'd add all together. I have 15 right now. And then we have the blue goddesses boost, and then the red one, and then the yellow ones. So here you can see all the ones that you have gotten so far, which is a pretty handy little chart to use. These are gonna be paired with the 3 scenario races at the end of each year. So after your training or race in late December, you'll also attend the scenario race. This race is not optional, but you also don't need to win it in order to continue the scenario. However, winning it will give you a bunch of bonuses, so it's highly recommended. You can see how many turns are left until the race on the HUD right here. You can see on this button right here, you have 14 turns left until Grow Up race is open. You can even use your clocks on these if you don't win first, so don't hesitate to use them. What distance these races will be would depend on how many races you've done so far in a particular distance. So if you've done a lot of miles races so far, then these will be miles. After you win the race, you'll be able to get your year-end bonuses. If the current year and the goddess's level match or higher, then you will get a bonus from them. So for example, in the first year after winning Grow Up race, and let's say you have Barb at level 1 or higher, you'll get a 1 random skill hint depending on the strategy you chose to run the race with. So for instance, if you did a race as a leader, then you can get Leader's Corner, for example, as a random skill hint. If Darley Arabian is also level 1 and higher, you'll also get 20 SP on top of the random skill hint. These year-end races give a lot of stats, so it's very important to have Red Wisdom ready to activate right before you head in. You won't be able to use the Wisdom at the race screen, so make sure you activate it at the beginning of the turn, so at the beginning of late December. The most important race would be the final race called Grandmasters at the end, which will net you the most out of your race bonus from your Red Wisdom, so make sure to save for it. After your SWBC race in senior year, late December, you will have 5 more turns to build fragments for the final race. It can be fairly risky if you don't already have fragments at the start, but unlike other races, you can use the wisdom on the race screen right before it starts, so you can use all 5 turns for collecting the red fragments. Now let's take a look at the end of training skills. You'll be able to choose a skill from the goddesses 1 turn before your Grandmasters race. If any of your goddesses are level 4 and higher, you'll be able to get their gold skill, which is also represented with a stone on the option. If they're not at level 4, then there'll be no stone on the option and you'll get a normal skill instead. The red skill is a middle leg speed up skill, and the blue skill is an opening leg random excel, and the yellow skill is a random final leg speed up. None of them were particularly outstanding, so feel free to take the red one since it's a bit more predictable. If you won all 3 of the year-end races, you will also get a level 1 hint for Heart and Soul after the SWBC race. If you manage to get all 3 of the goddesses to level 3 by the end of training, you'll also get a level 1 hint for the gold skill Good Track Demon. If you're trying to build a racer, here's my current recommendations. Do note that the scenario has only been out for a week as of writing this video, so it definitely can still change over time. In junior year, I would recommend focusing on blue and then blue yellow and finally end with red. Focusing on blue first will allow you to get your bonds up faster. Blue is also less helpful to activate later because of the 1 turn boost. It doesn't generate a lot of stats, so it's better to get that done earlier than later. And then after blue, you can either go for another blue or a yellow, but definitely end on a red to use the race bonus on the scenario race. For your classic year, which is also your 2nd year, I recommend going any of the blue, yellow, red actually, but then ending with red. Try to get 4 wisdoms if you can for this year, and it's generally better to collect wisdoms earlier in the classic year so you can get more permanent bonuses for the final year. At this point, it should be pretty flexible on which wisdom you want to use, with red at the end for WBC. Some ideas are to get an early blue if your bonds are looking pretty weak before summer, or gathering some yellow for the summer. Try to use yellow before the end of summer though to give you some extra turns to collect enough fragments for red for the year end. If you just started collecting red fragments in October, it can be pretty risky. Finally, in the senior year, which is also your 3rd year, definitely go yellow, red, and then end with red. At this point, you shouldn't need blue anymore unless you're going for a level 3 goddess for a good track demon. Again, hoping you'll get 4 wisdoms this year, but you can end up with 3 if you're unlucky. Yellow and red will be the ones you focus on the most so you can get the most stats, and then red will be for the last race again. For the last red, you can save it for the final Grandmaster race that will net you the most points, or you can use it on the SWBC in late December if you're feeling lucky. Again, make sure you start your red wisdom as soon as summer ends, as the race bonus is even more important this year than the last. And then finally, after all 3 years, you'll only have 5 turns to prep for the Grandmaster's race, and I hope you end it with a red wisdom ready by the end of the 5 turns, especially if you already used it up for the previous SWBC race. But don't feel like you have to tank all of your turns to do so. It's up to you on how you want to use the turns, but you can compare your training turns versus the boost of about 50 stats and SP at the end if you walk in with a red wisdom into the Grandmaster race. Since most people will end up with 10 to 12 wisdoms on average, many players are aiming to do something like 5 yellow, 5 red, and 1 blue, where they use the blue wisdom at the beginning of the training and then yellow for most of the training to get a lot of stats, and then red for the races. Or on the right here, you can see they do a 4-4-3 formation instead if they want to get good track demon at the end. If you're not making a racer but a parent instead, focus on the blue goddess only, as they will give you as many hints as possible and run as many G1 races as possible for compatibility. Now let's talk about fragments a little bit, because I want to make sure you're making the most out of your fragments. In the case you want to hold out your wisdom for a few turns, let's talk about how the fragments held will affect your gameplay. The symbols on the fragments will give you a +1 bonus per fragment when training in their facility. So for instance here, since we have 3 wisdom fragments here, you get +3 bonus when training wisdom. Fragment colors actually matter a little bit here. If the merged fragments, which we call crystals, were made of 2 different colors like this, where it's blue and red or red and yellow or yellow and blue, then they are worth +3 bonus, while if they're merged with 2 of the same color, blue blue, red red, yellow yellow, then they only give +2 bonus. Let's apply this back on our chart. Here we can see this crystal gives +3 because it's merged from 2 different colors, blue and yellow. We can see that this one's also +3 because it's merged from 2 different colors, red and yellow. And then you can come up here and see that this one, this blue one, is only worth 2 because it's merged from 2 blue crystals, and this one's worth 3 because it is merged from a red and blue. Crystal and fragment bonuses are additive, so all the bonuses from fragments and crystals together will be your total bonus. If you happen to be lacking in a certain stat and you have a lot of fragments of that type, it is not the worst case scenario to spend a turn or 2 with those fragment bonuses. You can always view this icon right here. You can press on this on the bottom of your knowledge chart to see what bonuses you have right here from your fragments. So you can see here I have 14 wisdom fragments, and you can count here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Same thing with speed. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so on and so forth. I want to talk about scenario differences just for a moment so you can get an idea of how I feel like Grandmaster is a little bit different after I've played it for a bit. It's only been a week of the release since writing the script, so I still currently find it a little bit difficult to get a higher score than I did in Grand Live, but I do think Grandmasters is a lot more flexible in terms of deck building. There's also a much higher ceiling. No longer are we chained to light hello, we don't always have to borrow her, and we're also not tied to using only a speed and intelligence deck. We can also use other cards as well, giving them value. Since there's still a lot of things we don't understand about the new Grandmaster scenario, perhaps we will find an optimal way to train, certainly in the near future. And in terms of stat caps, Grandmaster actually has less speed than Grand Live, but a little bit more power. With the new power mechanics, I am very interested to see how this will turn out. The new mechanics will allow racers with over 1200 power to save power in order to get some extra acceleration at the end of the race. Now let's talk about recommended decks, and unlike Grand Live, the decks in Grandmaster seems to be rather flexible. So to start, when I'm making a deck for Grandmaster, I always want to have 1 to 2 speed and 1 to 2 int, or you can place one of those ints with throne. They're kind of interchangeable at this moment. Then you can fill in the gaps. Here's some ideas below, but feel free to get creative. So for short, you can do something like 2 speed, 2 guts, an int and throne, or you can replace the guts with power. Or if you have a ton of speed bonus and you don't need that much, you can maybe replace it with an int instead, so you only have 1 speed card. For long, you're gonna need some stamina, so maybe you'll want something like stamina and power, or 2 powers, since power also gives you some stamina. And if you're feeling up to it and you have some speed bonus, perhaps you can do 2 guts and a power instead. Of course, none of this is 100% like you have to do this in order to have a successful build. Like, there's so many different creative ways, flexible ways to build decks in Grandmasters. So let me show you some examples. Right here I have a few decks that are for short and miles. So you can see over here I have 1 speed and 2 guts and basically 3 int. Well, 2 int and a throne, right? That is very interesting to me. And then we also have this one, which is Helios. Helios has 2 speed, a power, and then like 2 int and the Team Serious card, which is like, it feels a little bit random, right? But it still works. And Suzuka here is a 2/2/2, which is 2 speed, 2 guts, and then 2 int. So not relying on a group card at all, still works just as well. Looking at medium and long ones, we have Rice here. That's also 2/2/2, 2 speed, 2 guts, and 2 int. Seems to work just as fine as well. It is very, very flexible in this scenario. We also have Mr. CB, the new character here. We're doing 1 speed, 2 power, 2 int, and Team Serious. And then finally for Saiyan Sky, we have 2 speed, 2 stamina, 1 int, and 1 throne card. But the most important thing about medium and long is 1, know your character's growth bonuses. Like, if you know they have a speed bonus, maybe you don't need to take an extra speed card. And the other most important thing is always bring stamina parents if you're not using stamina or power cards, because you want to make sure you have enough stamina to get through your training, especially if you're doing medium and long. Sometimes you may get tripped up on Tenno Spring and you don't want that. And finally, I want to show you this weird deck that I did for Rice Shower, just to show you like literally anything goes. This one I had 2 power, 2 guts, and 2 int cards, and it still came out completely fine. So seriously, anything goes. It's super flexible. You can feel free to try anything out, and the most important thing is to just have fun. Thank you so much for watching, and I really truly hope this information was helpful to you all. Let me know your thoughts on the new training scenario, if you're enjoying it, or if you got some tips and tricks, and put that all down in the comment section below. I want to thank all of you truly again for being here with me today. I would love to see you on my Twitch channel. Come visit me. The links will be down below. And with that, I am sending you all good vibes and good luck in your trainings, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye bye now. Happy racing!